Yeah, and that's like, the whole drag and drop thing. It's good to a point, but then you still end up in that challenge of like, how do you quickly do it? But more importantly, like once,
Yeah.
how do you actually optimize it? And I have like two interesting parallels here. So on one respect, something like a HubSpot does make it pretty easy to just drag and drop and kind of put an email together or message together. The challenge though is the second you try to get any deeper, you're limited in a lot of the styling choices, and it provides like a pretty interface to do it, but it also hides a lot. And if you want to modify like simple things like, oh, I want a 10 pixel after paragraph space, like the only way to change that is to dive into code and view your content as HTML. So and then on the flip side, I'll pick on another block editor, Webflow. Right, so Webflow is highly complex, and it is like the Adobe Photoshop in terms of learning curve.
Yeah,
you can do some simple stuff, but it's also really easy to shoot yourself in the foot. And I guess I'm kind of wondering how you guys are thinking through that. Like you gotta obfuscate and really hide a lot of that complexity, but at the same time, we are going to need to kind of surface it up. So, in these experiments that you're running, what has worked?
For drag and drops, what I believe is like after at a certain point it helps, it keeps things simple, but when you start doing advanced stuff, it gets really messy. I have been using Photoshop for 7-8 years. Okay, then I was all of this dragging, dropping, all of the codes, it's really hard to whenever you use mouse, when you have to do something with the mouse, it gets slower, it makes you slower.
Yep.
Initially of my career, I watched a lot of video don't use mouse, keep adding shortcuts to use to make you more productive. Okay, then I keep thinking why I can easily use mouse. Then after I start implementing using shortcuts and all of this, let's say recast, I have switched from command space to option space just for that. Now I can the clipboard shortcuts, or this really makes them impact. That's how it started. You don't have to for subtle things you can pick your mouse, but mostly it helps you move things faster. You keep the slash command, you get everything. Just write it down on your keyboard, you get everything. From blog perspective, it's really hard to do that way. Now you have to pick your hand up. The basics thing the UX. I mean, from the UX perspective, I like the more from keyboard side instead of the using mouse for dragging, then another block. Oh, I need that block. Now dragging that to here. You can, without the mouse, you can just use your arrow key, go up, down. It's super easy.